Hi everybody, Sybil here again. Hoping you're safe and well and taking care of yourself very well by remembering to use these and these, these when you're out, social distancing. Anyway, nobody gave me any hair tips, so you're stuck with this. This is the way it is. I'm stuck with this too. Anyway, so today I wanted to talk about the long take, something we've heard about recently, most especially and specifically because of its use in the movie 1917. But let's start with a little bit of definition. A take is the amount of film exposed in one continuous running of the camera. As soon as the camera starts, the take begins. As soon as the camera stops, the take ends. Now, what does that mean in terms of time? Well, in the old days, when 35 millimeter film was the standard being used in most movies, a take would last as long as they could fit a magazine on a camera that had maybe 11 minutes worth of film. So 11 minutes was about the most a take could last. Today it's digital and takes can last much longer. So to quickly summarize, a take can be as long as the camera is running and as short as one frame, as we've said. But today we're going to talk about the long take, and there are many, many examples in movie history of long takes, and even directors who favored long takes. But you can find a lot of that information on YouTube. Just type in long take directors or long takes, and people have put together lots of different videos, you know, the 10 best long takes in movie history, but they don't really analyze them. And that's what we're going to try to do here. Try to understand the use of the long take, particularly in certain films by certain directors who have used that particular technique more interestingly, perhaps. So let's start with Alfred Hitchcock, because he was always trying new things and loved experiments, and he decided to try to take a play, something which had been a play on stage, and try to replicate the experience of watching a play on stage. This play which adhered to the classical unities of time, space, and action. And he decided in a film called Rope to experiment with that. The film is 80 minutes long, and it tries to create the illusion that real time and screen time are equal. In other words, that we are watching everything happen in those 80 minutes that we are experiencing, that the characters on screen are experiencing it in the exact same span of time, those 80 minutes. But the fact of the matter is, he found many ways to cheat. So I'll just lower the volume of the clip here so I can direct your attention to one of those ways, which he used more than once. But here it comes. Watch what happens. The camera gets very close on the man's jacket, and there is a cut. So here's a later scene in which Hitchcock uses a slightly different method of concealing the cut. See if you can spot it.
I hope you like what you see. Go ahead and look. I hope you like what you see.
Yep, you got it. It's the old hide the cut behind the piece of furniture trick. Yeah, it's interesting, I guess, but still an experiment. And I'm really more interested in long takes which communicate something, in which the filmmaker is making an attempt not just to try something because it's hard to do or because he's challenged technically, but rather that he's interested in creating relationship between the form he's using, in this case the long take, and the function it serves in the story we're seeing on screen. So here's an example from Weekend by the French director Jean-Luc Godard, in which a character who's in the moving convertible is trying to get to see his father before the older man dies, but he's entirely frustrated by this huge traffic jam filmed in one long 7-minute take. You ever been in a traffic jam? Well, one thing that's so frustrating about it is that we don't know when it's going to end. And that's what is happening with our experience of this long, seemingly endless take. We're experiencing what the character is experiencing because as viewers, we see no end to this traffic jam, just as we see no end to the interminable take that Godard does not release us from for 7 minutes. We're trapped in the real time of the take. And this is only 1 minute of a whole 7-minute take, so if you really want to see how it works, you got to see the whole thing. So let's look at a long take, which, in my opinion, creates a relationship with the viewer based on what's happening in the story that really couldn't be the same unless a long take was used. And this is the first scene, the opening scene, a very long take, 3+ minutes, almost 4 minutes, of a film by Orson Welles called Touch of Evil. This is the very first scene. So it's a good idea if you pay attention to what's happening in the scene and why the long take here.
You folks American citizens?
I am, yes.
Where were you born, miss?
Mrs.
What?
Philadelphia.
The name is Vargas.
Hey, Jim! You see who's here?
Sure, Mr. Vargas. Hot on the trail of another dope ring?
Hot on the trail of a chocolate soda for my wife.
Your wife?
Really a bride, officer.
Hey, can I get through?
A lot of talk up here about how you cracked that Grandy business.
Yeah, we hear you caught the big boss.
Only one of them. The Grandys are a big family. Good night. No purchases, Mr. Lineker?
Hey, I got this...
You're American citizen, miss?
No, I got this ticking noise.
Yeah, okay.
No, really, this
Good night.
ticking noise in my head.
Mike, do you realize this is the very first time we've been together in my country?
Do you realize I haven't kissed you in over an hour?
Amazing shot, isn't it? Meticulously choreographed before the camera started shooting, and it took all night to shoot. I mean, if you really look very closely towards the end, you can see a little bit of light in the sky as morning begins. So just a couple more examples here, and I hope you're beginning to see how some filmmakers really explored how the long take could function as more than just a gimmick or stunt, as Alfred Hitchcock called his own attempt in Rope. We've all heard about, and maybe some of you have seen, the most recent film that's relevant to our discussion here on The Long Take, and that, of course, is 1917, the Sam Mendes film about World War I. I have to admit that when I heard that it was supposedly made to look as though it had been shot in one take, I was pretty skeptical. I thought, okay, this is going to be a 3-hour and 15-minute gimmick, self-indulgent gimmick. But as I watched the film, I became more and more engrossed in the story and its characters, and so was the rest of the audience, by the way. I was in a big crowded movie theater, remember those? And there was not a sound from the audience, not even any popcorn crunching. You could hear a pin drop. And that feeling of engagement, for me, was not dissimilar to what I've been describing in some of the previous takes we've seen. There are lots of images of entrapment in this film. The trenches, the adherence to military duty, but the illusion that the entire film is shot in one long take, and there's plenty of cheating, of course, is another example of an entrapment in time that a long take can communicate. And here too, as viewers, we're not released from our real-time connection to the characters or to their harrowing circumstances because of that long take. So let's just look at one segment here where there are no cuts, supposedly.
What? Where is Colonel Mackenzie? He's further up the line. How far? 300 yards. He's in a cut and cover. You'll have to wait until the first wave goes over. No. No, I can't. Seven platoon on the second. You can't possibly make it that way, man. You bloody insane. What the hell are you doing, Lance Corporal? No, 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 no!
Another amazing scene. There are a few places where a cut might have occurred, a cloud of smoke rolling down a hill, but we don't notice that because we're just trapped again in real time and don't know when the take will end or whether at any moment our character will get hit by a bullet or a grenade or some other sort of bomb. It was a fascinating use of the long take, but for those of you who are interested in seeing how it was actually done or how it was done throughout the whole film, I recommend this wonderful video on YouTube called 1917 Explained by cinematographer Roger Deakins. Here's the link, but it's not actually a clickable link, so if you can't cut and paste it into YouTube. You can find it by typing in the name that I just mentioned, the title of the video, if you can't use the link. And there are lots of similar videos on YouTube, so you can certainly access those easily enough by just typing in 1917 or 1917 behind the scenes in the search field, and you'll get to where they are. And finally, I'll end with another traffic jam. This one, apparently shot in one long take, more recent than the one in Weekend, with a few hidden cuts, and hopefully not experienced as frustrating. It's the first scene from La La Land.
I also have to cuss into the parade and says it's conspiracy.
About that day, I left him at a Greyhound station west of Santa Fe. We were 17, but he was sweet and it was true. Still, I knew what I had to do, 'cause I just knew. Summer Sunday nights, we'd sink into our seats right as they dimmed out all the lights. A technicolor world made out of music and machine. It called me to be on that screen and live inside each scene.
Without a nickel to my name, hopped a bus, here I came. I could be brave or just insane. We'll have to see.
'Cause maybe in that sleepy town, he'll sit one day, the lights are down, he'll see my face and think of how he used to know me.
Climb these hills, I'm reaching for the heights and chasing all the lights that shine.
Lights that shine.
They let you down. Another day I'll get up off the ground. Another day the morning rolls around and it's another day of sun. I hear them every day. Rhythms in the canyons that'll never fade away. The ballads in the barrooms left by those who came before. They say we gotta want it more. So I bang on every door.
And even when the answer's no, or when my money is running low, the dusty mic and neon glow are all I need.
And someday as I sing the song, a small town kid'll come along. That'll be the thing to push him on and go, go. Climb these hills, I'm reaching for the heights and chasing all the lights that shine. Lights that shine, they let you down. Another day to get up off the ground. Another day the morning rolls around and it's another day of sun.
They let you down. The morning rolls around.
An homage to Godard's Traffic Jam? Maybe because there are many homages in this film to other movies from movie history. Maybe it's another self-reflexive film. But that's for another time and maybe another video. One recommendation before I go. There's a terrific video hosted by the choreographer of La La Land. Her name is Mandy Moore on YouTube. So here's another link. Again, it's not a clickable link, but you can cut and paste it. And if you don't want to do that, you can go to YouTube and type in La La Land's choreographer explains the freeway dance scene. It runs about 12 minutes. So that's it for now. Please leave comments if you can. You need to have or open a Gmail account to do so. And hair tips. Stay well, keep safe, and watch some movies.